Hey, it's Megan of Hip Stitch Academy, and I'm going to be teaching the workshop for the Studio Tunic by Sew Liberated. And this is going to be the video showing everybody who signed up, or even if you're just interested, I'm going to post it publicly on YouTube, how to cut it out. So, be making the version B, which is the rounded neck on the right. So when you open up the package and look at the instructions, you're going to find which pieces you need for view B. I have the printed pattern, so it's basically looking like one sheet is sizes 0 through 20, and then the other sheet is 22 through 34. So I'm cutting a size 18. So all of my pieces seem to be on this one sheet. So we're going to be working with piece A, the back, piece B, the front. The back is cut on the fold. The front, you need 2 of them. Piece C is the back yoke. Piece D are the pockets. You need 2 of them. You only need 1 of the back yoke on the fold. Piece E is the inner pocket. You need 1 of those. Piece F is 1 hanger loop. Piece K is 1 front neck facing for the B specific apron or tunic. Piece H is 1 back neck facing. I is 2 front armhole facings, and then J is 2 back armhole facings. So these are the pieces that are going to be cut from the fabric. So what I'm doing here is I cut out roughly all of the pieces, and then I went back and I ironed all of my pattern pieces, so then I could get a much better close cut. I'm using a rotary cutter that is semi-dull because I am cutting paper, so it's just going to make my blade duller and duller, but I just use a dull rotary cutter when I do cutting the pattern pieces because I think it goes faster if I use a rotary cutter because I have this gigantic mat. However, if you are cutting on the floor or a large table and you don't have a large enough mat underneath, just use paper scissors. So like I said, I'm cutting size 18, and this was based on the size chart in the envelope with the instructions. So make sure that you distinguish between your measurements and your finished sizes. Sometimes if you're not doing the largest or smallest, your lines are going to sort of not necessarily be in the same spot. So just keep an eye on the size that you're cutting the pattern. And if it's really unclear, you can grab a highlighter and just mark it with a highlighter first, and then it's a little easier. So now I'm spreading out my fabric. I'm using a cotton linen blend, and I picked up the fabric, determined where the selvages were, put those together, and folded it in half, long and skinny. So my fold is along the right edge. This is my front piece. I need 2 of those. This is my pocket. I need 2 of these. Neither of them need to be cut on the fold. Now I'm going to put the back piece on the fold because that one they've directed us to put it on the fold, and then I have the back yoke which needs to be on the fold too, so I'm going to wait on that one. I have my arm facings, front and back arm facings. Each of those are cut 2. Make sure that the arrow on the pattern pieces is going in the direction of the selvage. It should be parallel to the selvage. I'm going to use these little pieces over here. Now you've got an instruction book. They show you a layout. This is just the way I'm laying mine out based on 44-inch wide fabric. Now I have a front facing, and I need to put that one on the fold. However, I don't feel like it needs to be on the fold. It's going to be inside, so I'm going to cut 2. And then my back yoke should be on the fold as well. And I was just sort of demonstrating that I'm going to do that after. So my everything is kind of being put in place. I'm going to pin it all down and then I'm going to cut it out. Keep in mind, I still have the back yoke. And as I was cutting this, I realized that I never did a back facing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that later and cut that later. So I've gone ahead and switched out my rotary cutter to the one with a much sharper blade. I also have scissors nearby because I'm sort of a dual cutting tool person. I never used a rotary cutter when I was learning to sew and growing up, and probably really didn't use a rotary cutter until the last like 5 years. So I use a combination. This is the front piece. Doesn't need to be on the fold, but I put it really close to the fold, so I'm separating that. And now I'm just, applying pressure, cutting away from me, trying to be as safe as possible with the rotary cutter. And then again, I tend to like break things off into rough pieces before I do the specific edges with the rotary cutter. So bear with me. I'm a little ADHD when I'm cutting. I'm a little kind of all over the place, but it's just the way that I do it. Remember, this can all be done on the floor. This can all be done on your kitchen table. I know I have this amazing setup, obviously, because I have a sewing studio, but you can do it on the floor. You can do it on the table. It is totally fine. And if you have a small cutting mat, oh yeah, this is the front facing rounded neck where I cut to and I left a seam allowance where the folded edge was going to be, because I'm going to sew those together. I don't feel like wasting fabric to make sure those are on the fold. So I'm just going to cut to, leave a seam allowance. Here is my back piece, and it is on the fold because that's supposed to be one big piece, and then there's all my extra. Now this is about, so there's my back. This is about the point I realized, wait a second, I have no back facing piece. So I'm kind of like, okay, got all my pieces. Great, great, great. I've got no back facing. How am I going to finish? Yeah, so here I am looking for that, realizing that that's probably on the piece of pattern. Oh, wait, just a second. I have no back yoke yet. So I'm going to grab a scrap. Thanks for bearing with me here. I'm going to grab a scrap. I'm going to make sure the selvage is still along the up and down grain. Fold that piece to where the back yoke fits. Pin it on there in a couple spots. I only need one cut on the fold. And now I'm like, wait a second, where's my back facing? It's going to be on this giant piece of pattern piece that I kind of stuffed behind me. So I need to cut that out. And again, I'm not going to waste the fabric to cut it on the fold, even though it's supposed to be on the fold. There she is. So just indicating that where it's supposed to be on the fold, I'm going to double up my fabric, still making sure that the grain matches all of the rest of the pieces. I'm going to line it up on this doubled fabric, leaving a bit of extra seam allowance because I'm going to sew it together on the edge that's supposed to be on the fold. Because this is a piece that's going to be inside, it's not going to make a difference if it's pieced together. Just little tricks to save fabric. It's just my mission to save as much fabric as possible and teach you how to save fabric. So these are just little things that I do. Now I'm all set cutting. However, I've realized that I've not made the hanger loop. Please note, you need to make your hanger loop. It's a tiny little rectangle. Find that, cut it out. And then here's what I do when I use a new pattern. I'm going to cut the cover so I have a picture for the front of my larger manila envelope. I'm going to take that on and I'm going to put all my pieces and instructions and the rest of the box into my envelope so I can be very organized. So don't forget to go and cut your hanger loop like I did. Okay, now it is time to cut the interfacing. So we need the front arm facing, the back arm facing. Both of those need to be 2 pieces of interfacing. Now keep in mind, if you have a fusible interfacing, you've got to make sure you have mirror images. So the easiest thing to do is fold that fusible interfacing in half and cut 2 layers at a time. That'll give you mirror image pieces. So 2 front arm facings, 2 back arm facings, and then you need the neck facings, which are both cut 1 on the fold. Again, I'm going to cut 2 of them and iron them together so they're butting up against each other after I've sewn my front and back facing pieces together. Everything should have interfacing. If yours is not fusible, you can just baste it on there, but fusible can be a little easier. Don't worry about fusing it on. We're going to learn to do that in the class, but I just wanted you to have these interfacing pieces cut out. There's also 2 small rectangles that you need. The measurements are in the instruction booklet. So the measurements of these 2 strips are 2 inches by 15 inches. I have not looked at the pattern yet, but I imagine they're for the top of the pockets. Just to stabilize those a little better. Yes, those are for the top of the pockets to stabilize them. So make sure you have some interfacing on hand when the class starts, or you can cut those 2 pieces out 2 by 15 later. See you in class, guys.